interest statement. Well, board members, as a Surry County Board of Elections, we have a duty to avoid conflicts or appearances of conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or any appearance of a conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before our board today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter. Board members, we have our minutes from our last board meeting, our May 24th, 2024 canvas meeting before you for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes from our May 2024 meeting be accepted as is.
We have a motion for the minutes of May 24th canvas to be approved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
There.
Thank you, Cindy.
Next on our agenda is the public forum portion of our meeting for anyone of the public that wishes to speak to the Board of Elections for any subject pertaining to our elections process. If you will and wish to speak, please state your name, your telephone number, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to the board in the public forum portion?
Sure. Where would you like to stand or sit? Where would you like to stand or sit?
You can come to that table right there.
Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Johnson and a resident of the Westfield District. My number is 336-929-0686. And today I'm coming to you as a parent and as a citizen of the county to petition or ask for this board to consider the possibility of moving voting election sites out of the Surry County School District. I come today speaking as a parent, but a little about me and my background. I enlisted in the Coast Guard in July of 2000. I retired in 2021. During that time, I specialized in maritime law enforcement operations, port and waterways coastal security, counter drug, and finishing up in counterintelligence. I held a top secret compartmentalized clearance. I say that only because I don't mean it's not to be bragging. It's not even to have any extra credentials. I come to you to speak from a position in the history of I evaluate information and intelligence as is, not from a point of feeling and or wishes. I know we think Surry County is a very safe place, and it is. We hope that things bad will never happen here, and I continue to hope the same. But I look at the world for what it is and what it is at today's climate, and it's a dangerous place that is hostile in many ways. I know that right now the school board has worked diligently with you guys at communicating some of our own wishes and desires to have this happen. I'm coming to you to lay out some of the specific reasons. I think from the perspective of current events, we can look at the Covenant school shooting at Nashville, and out of that diary and the manifesto this particular individual wrote, the reason that they chose that target was as a soft target. Information that we also use in the service. We guarded our infrastructures, coastal water securities, key infrastructures based on this information. We knew what the adversaries would consider to be a soft target, and we beefed up and bolstered those targets. Our school system's a soft targets. Our children are most valuable assets that many of us, all of us have, and they are vulnerable. I don't wish to put in a political climate that is growing to be more and more hostile, these incidences or even possibilities of crossing a line. The director of Board of Elections recently sent out a memo 2022-12 and the last midterm elections, specifically outlining some added measures the Board of Elections at the county level can take to mitigate some of these things. And we obviously know that these hostilities and hostile actions are happening. We had over 20 of them happen in the midterms as it was reported to the public. I think that these things have to be considered. I think we have to do things. I think we have to make sure we can find ways to do this. It is going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but if it was easy, everybody would do these things. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. We as parents are asking some of the local community leaders that they would be willing to use their facilities. I think we have some traction at one of these facilities. We'll wait to see on a vote here in July. I do put it before this board to at least listen to this. I know that here in the recent runoffs that we had, there was a lot of scrambling and it's really pulled it to a head for us as school and the parents added headaches during testing. Some of the things that I do believe that were maybe potentially overlooked. I know that at Westfield, we made rapid decisions to change the location at the school to mitigate some of the risk of crossing paths. I think that puts a conflict of interest between the school and this Board of Elections, because I do not think that you guys had 30 days to prove that measure, to set buffer zones, to set limitations, to set all these standards that are required to be done 30 days prior with public notice. And as a result of the knee jerk or the necessity to accommodate something that was on a runoff that wasn't on schedule. These things have to be overlooked or have to be looked at as overlapping in what we can do in the future. This body has to work hand in hand with the school board if we're going to continue to use these facilities. We can't have these instances where runoffs are just popping up. I know it's random, but we've got to have foresight. We've got to have standard operating procedure to keep this from happening again. So we're not caught with our backs to the wall. In closing, I just ask that you at least hear us out. We do feel like it is important. I know that one case is all we're going to need for us to wish we had done something different. And something as simple as pulling a fire alarm while voting is happening, and you've got a room full of people that are voting in an entire school that's trying to evacuate a building. What is that mayhem going to look like? What are we going to do? And if I was a bad guy, it's exactly what I would do. I'd go in there, yank the fire alarm, and everybody's going to come flooding out. And then that's when I'm going to create mayhem. It's just that simple. You have to think like these people. They're evil. They're going to do bad things. I hate to bring it and hate to say it, but that's just the way I look at the world. So I appreciate your time. I hope that we can have this conversation in the future between the school board and this board and get some meaningful resolution. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. You was talking good stuff. I'd give you a couple extra minutes.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I didn't mean to run over.
I hated to break in on you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else wish to speak in the public forum portion of our meeting? Is there anyone online that wishes to speak online? If there is no one else, I will close our public forum portion of our meeting. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the request to move precincts, Bryan and Southwestville Elementary School. Dr. Reed, you asked for this, and you asked for this board to listen, and we're happy to see you and Chairman Badgett here today. Anyone else of your staff that wishes to come up?
Board members, step up here. Gentlemen, I'd like you to sit right here beside
We
us.
got another chair here too.
I know time is, this afternoon is of the essence for your board. I believe you all have a meeting, and so we wanted to get to this as soon as we could and put this at the top of our agenda, with the exception of the public forum that we always have. So, we thank you all for being here. So the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you for accommodating us today and for putting us on the schedule in short notice. As you've already heard, we've had parents that have come to us and we are a little concerned also with the additional traffic on our campuses during election times. And I think we all realize that in November, there's very potential of some very contentious elections and some of the security issues that we feel they may have. Not to mention just the general disruption of our activities on our campus, and our kids are very structured. And I want to thank Mr. Sheets for his quick thinking and making some accommodations at Westfield, our last runoff, so that we could accommodate those. But we feel like that it's, while I was growing up, schools were almost always a precinct, almost always a voting site. But in those days, the times have changed, and things are just not as safe as we would like them to be in this world. So we feel as a board, and the board is unanimous, and I'm here today with Mr. Goins and Mr. Whitaker. Sorry, our other two members couldn't make it. They're working, but just to ask that you consider a way that we can relocate those two, and then going into the future, find a way that we can work together in advance if there are situations that come up where other schools might be considered, that we're able to work that out before, because we do have some, we have open campuses pretty much across the county. Somebody can walk in at any time and blend into a situation and walk into a school when the door is open. And it just concerns us that we don't know who they are when they come in for an election. So appreciate your time. And I know Dr. Reese has some other information. We had some information in the letter that we sent you, but be glad after Dr. Reese has made his comments, and we can answer any questions or see what we can do to work together.
We'll start the dialogue.
Great. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board of Election members. Thank you for adding us to your agenda. We do appreciate it. Mr. Carter, I appreciate your meeting with me as we prepared for that special election on May 14th. We do have the principal of Westfield Elementary School, Mr. DJ Sheets, and the principal of Mountain Park Elementary School, Mr. Matt Scott, with us today, as well as Ms. Heather Johnson, principal parent at Westfield Elementary School. Board members, this is a situation that really I know is hard for you. I understand and appreciate all you do to make sure that we have fair elections. And I believe that is the core of our democracy, the cornerstone of who we are as a country, where people can come together and vote in a fair way to elect the folks that represent us in multiple offices. So first of all, I respect what you do, the process, and all the planning that you and your team really put into voting. I think a lot of those things go without a lot being thought about. People show up at the precincts and they vote. Well, there's a lot that goes into that, just like there's a lot that goes into running a school system that a lot of people don't think about. But I can tell you, I do think about those things, running a school system, not running a board of elections, but I think we have a lot in common in all the things that we have to take into account. And so I come here today really to just outline some of those things. And I think this special election on May 14th really highlighted some of the challenges you face and some of the challenges we face. And on that particular day, that was the first day of end of grade testing at Westfield Elementary School and at Mountain Park. And those dates for us are very time driven, just like elections are very time driven for yourself. And no one knew that was coming until the day of the March primary. So I say all that to say, this is Miss Brandy Chilton. She is a parent at Westfield, and she is on my parent advisory council. And we meet on a quarterly basis. And Miss Chilton brought this concern from the parents at Westfield Elementary School. And really, Mr. Johnson did a great job kind of outlining some of those concerns from parents. It's a safety concern for parents. Having strangers in the building, and you all know we've gone to great details and depths to protect students from locking the doors internally externally, adding more video cameras all across our campuses. And most recently, we have requested and a school resource officer be placed at every single school. And graciously, the county commissioners in there, hopefully that they vote on that tonight on the budget for next year. We'll be adding 4 more resource officers so that we have an officer at every school. So safety is paramount. So that's first and foremost. I think those are some of the issues we're dealing with. There's also logistical issues. Obviously, when you have people on campus, restrooms, just facilitating the day of the school, disruptions for us and for you. And we, on the day of testing, we had a potential, always there's a potential for a missed test or misadministration, and then all the kids have to take it again, and nobody wants that. So I appreciate Ms. Chilton coming not only with an issue, but also with a solution. And I know the Westfield parents have been actively seeking other alternative voting sites to potentially give you some ideas of where could voting happen in that precinct. And so I know there's been some discussions, and I think that, I don't know if you have an update on if any of those locations have been secured or are just in the process of being secured, Ms. Chilton.
There's one more date, July 10th, we're supposed to know for a positive process that would allow us to use their facility that we could present to the board.
Okay. So you don't have it.
It's went through the deacons. It's a church.
Okay.
It's went to the deacons and they would like to present it to the whole church as on July the 10th.
Okay. And that's in Westfield.
It is.
Okay.
Mhm. It's not far from the location that they're at. Yes.
Is it, Ms. Chilton, is there anything else you would like to add from a parent's perspective to, that would add to the discussion and conversation?
Well, I appreciate everybody's time for letting us speak on this, as being on the SIT team at the school, being the president of the PTO. And also Heather we alternate because, our lives are busy. So she has also served as president and she's the vice president, and we're doing dual roles this time. So the Johnsons are heavily involved in the school. So it's not just being that we're here to talk about this, we're involved at the school every day or all the time. So just want to make that point that we're here to make it safe for everybody, not just the students, but even anybody there working there. And
Absolutely.
It's a soft target,
Absolutely.
like Mr. Johnson said. So that's why I just want to thank you for your time and listening to us. And hopefully, with trying to say that we're trying to help find somewhere else that shows that, we're eager to work with you if we can try to resolve this.
Thank you.
So, soft target, logistical challenges for school administration the day of the event. Obviously, we have people, I appreciate the extra officers you've added to voting sites, both one inside and outside. The safety and security concerns we have. Students get nervous when things are different at school, when schedules are different at school. Adults get nervous when things are different at school and when there are a lot of people on campus. So it does create kind of a very challenging situation for our school administrators. Not that we don't welcome you, it's just, it is very challenging for us. And I think the May 14th primary or the runoff really kind of exacerbated some of those challenges on our side, and I think also on yours. And I do appreciate, Mr. Carter, you coming and meeting with me and us trying to work out a solution, knowing that kind of the situation you had to deal with on your timeline. So those are some things I appreciate you bringing those to the table and helping us understand. So obviously we're here today to have a conversation and hopefully develop some solutions.
Anyone else from your board?
I'd just like to say I appreciate the time. I know it's, when you have two things like this merging together, it does complicate things. And I know with the runoff that we had this year, the timing of it, I think that the parents on apprehension about distraction and so forth, the security, I was on the security committee or safety committee prior to us reforming our process with our school board. And safety is a big issue today all around. And we continue to enhance safety measurements and layer different safety components to, I think, make our schools a better, safer place where our students can feel safe when they come. And but we do appreciate your allowing us to come and present the issue that we have on it. And I think you recognize that. And we recognize the issues y'all have as well.
We hear you. We do. And of course, when we met, Ms. Sydney and myself met with you and staff. Of course, we wanted to listen then. There was 2 trains on the track. And that was your testing that was particular for that day, that it had to be, and there was a lot of different things built into that you wanted to make sure the students had no distractions. And I heard that. And I'd like to commend your 2 principals, Mr. Sheets and Mr. Scott. Whenever I was able to ask and permitted to ask them, put your heads together and how we can come about making this still work, because our hands were tied by state law, not being able to move that second election date for, like I say, that was a special time whenever you had your train on the track that was different than a normal school day. But that they brought up thing to say, we can move if this room will work, if this lunchroom can work. This sort of segregates us away from the bulk of the children, the young adults, to be able to let our 2 officers that we hire, that are not legally bound to, but for us to budget that. And that rate has doubled since last year as far as what we pay them to let them go in and also help your SRO officers. That worked very well. And I believe Matt was able to find another corner of the school to put us all in that maybe helped keep the voters away from the children. And I was glad to see that worked, but we were under a legal restraint from being able to move those precincts. Ms. Chilton, like what I said earlier, we hear you. I've taken time and I've driven through the Westville area. I've gone through Jessup Grove Church, Pine Ridge Presbyterian Church, looked at the old Ruathan building. I've been there personally myself and took pictures. And because I was wanting to seek out some possibility, but it would have to be a possibility that meets a lot of different criteria. So there's where we don't know that they, you know, on the outside, it looks like they may work, but we'd have to be inside and with our staff to make an assessment. Because each polling place has to go through an assessment each election period. And if something changes, that can make something other change our criteria. Now that special testing for that date, that's gone. You'll have more times, you'll have more testing like that. But of course, the situation then was you didn't even want car doors slammed to be a distraction to the students with the windows. And I understand that. But now we've come up with the situation as far as the safety. And we understand that. But school facilities have been used for a long, long time. And of course, not like what it used to be, but used to, so many of the schools out in the different rural areas, that was your polling place and it didn't change. Now here through the decades, time, they dropped off. We've moved into rescue squad buildings, churches. So other places have come up that we have been able to move those out. And so now we have two last of the movies that, you know, we're going to need to look at more again. Board member, do you all have questions or do you have assessments that you all would like to add in? Wait a minute, I'd like to first, our board attorney is here, Mark Payne. Whatever we do, we gotta stay, we're gonna rise above the law. Or we're all in trouble. So what is your assessment? What is your line of defense on this?
A lot of the issues are going to be policy issues that I can happily hand off to you guys. So a lot of the issues are not really legal issues, but there are several. One, the authority of the Board of Elections is plain that if they have to use a school site, they can use a school site. It's going to be one that, you know, that's the final decision is up to the school board and the state board of elections. Finding an alternative site is something that staff works with all the time and is always trying to find a better location for whatever reason. Some of the issues that have come up in alternative sites are access, parking. You know, do those present safety concerns? Handicapped accessibility is a real issue in trying to make sure those alternative sites work. So there's a lot of issues that you have to walk through to make sure an alternative site will be acceptable. And it's my understanding the staff is doing that homework right now, trying to see what's out there. So you know, and as you get a site, we'll have to do some more homework to make sure it fits all those criteria. And the state board of election has to feel like they fit all the criteria. So it's not just this board that has to say, yeah, that works. The state board also has to say that. I do think there's enough time between now and then that if there's an alternative that's viable, that I think that we can make that happen. I have no idea if we're going to find a viable alternative, but I know the search is on. And if you guys, my phone number, the easiest way to get up with me is by calling my phone number, 336-669-2302. If any of you folks have some questions or concern, feel free to contact me, or go through Michelle and the staff.
And I will just speak to what Mark mentioned about the time frame. We are okay right now on time frame. We would need to get a notice in the paper by July 23rd. So I think, Ms. Chilton, you said July 10th. Okay. And again, as Mark said, there's a lot that would have to happen, you know, with your locations specifically, but we don't have a lot of time, but we do have time. There's a lot have to be done this summer to make that work.
Westfield has some possibilities, and we appreciate you taking the opportunity to start delving through those possibilities. Bryan Township, Matt, Mr. Scott, You're in no man's land. I'm sorry. That would be more difficult. We feel from what our assessment is, as far as trying to find an alternative. Staff in the last few weeks, Michelle has gone into looking into some of the facts and figures. And Mr. Superintendent, if you think having 2 schools as voting sites in your county, Wake County has 83 schools that are used. Mecklenburg uses 61 through their county, the Board of Elections uses. And so, Michelle, I know, like I say, you all done some work trying to show.
Yeah, there is a copy of it, and everyone's, you all should have a copy too, Ms. Chilton, you're you know, if you want to grab one there.
Yes.
But yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. I want to first say all this preparation work was done a lot by staff, so I want to thank them for a lot of work in a short amount of time. But this is just actual facts and data based on what the board had asked us to find to be prepared possibly for this. But you see there on the first page, basically this is the whole state. 35 out of 100 counties do use at least one school as an election day precinct. You see those highlighted there. And then 30 out of the 35 counties that do not utilize schools on election day are smaller in voter registration than Surry. We have 23 election day precincts here in Surry. So just to give you an idea. And as
Do we know the Wake and Mecklenburg school calendar? How they're utilizing that day?
I do not, I seriously doubt they're going to school on those days.
Yeah, most schools that offer election day precincts use teacher work days.
Yeah.
Because
Or
the
virtual
election dates are not changeable. They're preset. And we know your calendar is done annually. Yes,
Work day into it.
work a teacher work day is a possibility.
Well, the challenge with the fall semester is getting the number of days necessary before the first exam. We have 90 days. We like to get 90 in the fall, 90 in the spring. The fall is always cramped, trying to get those days in. So we've got a teacher work day built on Autumn Leaves Friday. That's a kind of a Surry County holiday. Hard to have school on Autumn Leaves Friday. So you've got that day. And then always Veterans Day is a national holiday. That's November 11th. We're required to take that day. And we have Thanksgiving. What I'm saying is it becomes really hard for us to get the full 90 in, or almost 90 in the fall. Spring's a little easier. We have a little bit more flexibility.
And I used to know what Wake's was, as far as what their calendar looked like. If memory serves, Guilford doesn't have a teacher work day. They do a online, a virtual learning day.
And that's an option for us. We have a majority of our students who are on free and reduced lunch. And if they're not coming to school, they may not be getting a meal. And I don't say that lightly. I just say it. School is the best place for our students, and we don't want to do a virtual day if we can help it. I think it's a last option for us, but it is an option we would exercise. But we want, and obviously consistency, having school, and when you have 17, 18 schools that are going to school, and then you have 2 that aren't, then parents start kind of say, well, why are we not? And then it can become a child care issue for parents, especially in the middle of the week, if they don't have regular child care. Those are things that we think about on anytime we alter the schedule, have weather issues, weather delays, that all those are issues that parents deal with that we certainly try to help out with. But all of those are things that go into those decisions. I am curious, there's a bill that's been filed in the short session to eliminate any school from being used as a voting precinct. I think maybe the representative from Yadkin County sponsored that bill. Do we know where that stands?
That's interesting too, because Yadkin doesn't use schools for theirs.
Funny that that would be coming
Yeah,
from the
they,
Yadkin
and,
representative.
yeah,
I'm sure
Dax County.
represents.
yeah.
Actually, Surry County uses 3, if you include the Elkins Center.
Mhm.
You know, we have high school students coming and going daily, differs per semester depending on what's offered. Yeah. And so actually there are 3 schools in Surry County that are affected by election day. And of course, there's not been any questions, I don't believe, from the president of Surry Community. And we did have Pilot Center in Pilot Mountain as a precinct at one time. And we
It
never
was
had any problems with students coming and going.
It was
High school-
actually early voting.
Early
Yeah.
voting. Was it early voting or
early
was
voting.
it
Mhm.
a precinct?
Yeah, so that was for multiple days.
Multiple days. That was like 15 days.
So yeah. Mhm.
Mr. Payne?
I was just gonna say, I did see when that bill came up, it was sent to committee. And I might have missed it, but last I saw it was still in committee. It hadn't it hadn't passed either house as the last I saw it. So, and you know, bills, you never know what's gonna happen. Sometimes bills go from lost in committee to passed in an hour, but you know, but last I saw, it was still just in committee.
And I'll mention that we have bi-weekly huddles with state board, all 100 counties, and that has not been brought up for it to be on our radar as election directors, but that doesn't mean, like Mark said, that who knows what's going on with it.
Well, me personally, I think it's a matter of time before, I just think it's a matter of time, and we're here dealing with a situation where we've got two public schools, maybe a community college site that's being used. We've got one group that's actively reaching out and trying to really bring forth a solution. And we may have another difficult challenge at Mountain Park. I will say this from a standpoint of just logistics, leave everything off the table. Westfield is much more challenging than Mountain Park because the way the buildings are laid out. The gymnasium, and we did alter and put voting in the cafeteria. So that maybe helped with testing, but kids didn't get to eat in the cafeteria. And so it put another burden on our child nutrition staff, and we actually did bag lunches that day, and the kids, I think, ate in the classrooms. We made it happen. We made it work, and that's fine for one day. We made it work. At Mountain Park, the gymnasium is separate, little separate area, separate parking, they have their own restrooms. That area is it's a little easier to manage, much easier to manage than the Westfield School, where the building is all connected. There are no bathrooms in the gymnasium. You have to come into the main hall where the kids use the bathroom. And so it just creates just a lot of logistical issues for our folks. So we're here today. Hopefully we can work out some solutions. We appreciate you going to the links of exploring options in both communities, and we'll continue to do the same. I think knowing that date, Ms. Huff, helps us try to at least work toward that timeline.
Sure.
One thing I know that comes, this is an edict that comes down from the state as far as restrooms. The only obligation at any polling site, any precinct voting location, is the bathrooms should be only available to the precinct workers. People out working outside that are polling for a particular candidate or handing out cards outside of the 50-foot buffer from the front door. We are not committed to offer them or have restrooms for them. And you all would not be. They're on their own.
We always will have a situation where there's an emergency. We're not going to turn anyone away. And I don't care how many signs we put up, inevitably, we still have people that come to the front door knocking, wanting to vote in the main building, even though we're voting in the gym or somewhere. I mean, you know, that just happens and we try to accommodate those folks. It just presents a whole set of issues that our principals today didn't deal with 5 years ago and certainly didn't deal with 10 years ago. So we have to look at things differently. Mr. Scott, Mr. Cheeks, you have anything you'd like to add? No, I think you covered it well. Okay.
Like I say, I appreciate you gentlemen.
Yeah.
You two principals, I think you all started putting your thinking caps on that day in our meeting and started coming up with an alternate location to be able to use because our hands were tied to that. We had to be on your campus and you made a different, hopefully better location because of testing and such. And I would hope that it would be maybe better for secure. Mr. Johnson, I want to say one thing as far as we recognize the safety of the students. There are 3 people on this board that form a law enforcement here in the county. So we appreciate your comments. And even though it was a long time ago, we were there. We were there.
Mr. Carter, if I could just make 2 quick comments. Had a chance to meet with the parents at Westfield before your runoff election. And that was a great meeting, had some great ideas. There was never any, let's go to them right now and get it changed. They understood the constraints you run at that time. So that's why we started working on this plan. And the second thing, you mentioned something that sort of, it triggered something in my mind. Part of your challenge with having precincts in those rural areas is there's not a lot there. Well, that's the same problem we have. It's on the other side because it's a long time for a law enforcement response in Mountain Park and Westfield. So we have to consider that with safety, and security. We need to make sure that we do everything we can. And having an SRO on every campus is going to be great. But that's one person.
Yeah.
When we had the event in North Surry this past year, we had 28 law enforcement officers on site in 4 minutes. That can't happen in Westfield and Mountain Park because it's just not, the location doesn't work as well. So thank you. We appreciate you considering and working with us, and anything you can do, we'd appreciate it.
Anything else from the board, other board members?
No.
I have a question. Mountain Park, is the fire department not available for a potential voting site at Mountain Park?
Parking's an issue there.
They even,
She said parking's an issue.
Parking.
in past, parking even in front of the doors for the access of the.
They don't want us, you know, our chief judge has to be there on election morning by 5:30. So a lot of the fire departments, they don't want their equipment sitting out all night. They want them inside. So our schedule for election day, as the principals probably know, is the night before on Monday night. We're setting up the precincts, all 23, and that's the chief judges and the poll workers. And then the next morning they come in, unlock the door, start, logging on the computers and everything. Well, if we can't get our equipment in there because our voting equipment in there because their fire equipment is still in there, that makes it really tough for the turnaround on election morning. So we did have a couple of fire departments that still hold out and won't let us go in. So that just makes it very, very tough on those chief judges the night before and the morning of. But again, we can work around those things if need be. But I know Sydney went out there and parking, it may not pass ADA inspection because of parking at the fire department. Is there anything, well, you didn't go inside, did you? Yeah, outside.
Are you still using 3 days for Thanksgiving off?
Yes, sir. We have teacher work day on Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday.
I remember when I went, we only had Thursday and Friday off. I mean, I was thinking maybe that day could that day be changed and use that on election day instead of 3 days off?
we have a calendar committee that usually develops that calendar, and we have folks, teachers and administrators. I think that'd be a really tough sell with that calendar committee. That's my opinion.
But I will say that after our meeting with the parents, I asked our assistant superintendent to go back to the calendar committee in years coming, see if we can accommodate that day as a day off. I think we solved the problem easily with the state, passed the state, the law that says it's a state holiday.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Take care of all
It's a
that.
permanent, it's a permanent set day.
That
We
makes it,
can't
makes it
change
an
it.
easy fix.
Yes.
It is, but you also have to remember, what about a second primary? You know, it's easy to say, well, it's not easy because it hasn't been done,
Right.
but election day being a holiday, perfect.
Right.
But then when you have these runoffs and things like that, how do
And
you
you
handle
talk
that?
through.
Yeah, that's the only difficult part about that.
The potential would be 3 days, a
Yes.
primary, a second primary, and then the general election.
Mhm.
And you don't have any backup to the general election. That's it for that day.
Or if there's a recount for the general, it's done like we did here,
Yeah, it's,
one room, and it was
that
all
wouldn't affect the
23.
school.
That wouldn't affect the schools, no.
I remember I went,
Thank you.
I was remembering on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, because I used to skip that day and go deer hunting. And I knew I was supposed to be in school.
Yeah.
But
Maybe the reason.
Tell it on yourself.
Anybody come to school?
there's statute of limitations here.
Go back and revise your school record. So I don't know if we need to go as far as to have an ad hoc committee as far as Ms. Chilton and maybe Sydney from staff. And see what we can get ready for another presentation. And what they would, what the churches or what you have in mind to do. Mr. Scott, keep looking out there. If I can ask the two principals, did in the move, I know moving to the lunchroom, that caused the food service people to have to bag up everything and carry it to the school, but did the voting and Mr. Scott, I'm not sure exactly what area that you put us in that last second primary. Did they work better than the normal locations?
So for me, I kept it in the same location. What we moved on the second primary was where people parked.
Yeah.
So there was no interference at the front of school, so we could at least close our blinds for testing and not have kids watching people, come in and out of the building.
And we ended up putting an officer at that breezeway, right, inside, is that what we did?
That's where I went
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah,
I
okay,
had Another layer.
before they enter the school,
Correct.
okay.
Looking at it as far as the safety and the children, did you feel that it was a safer location where you placed us on the second primary?
No, his was the same,
His was the same.
just the
Oh,
parking lot when they parked was different.
oh, good.
Right, yeah.
Mine was in a different location. We moved from the gym to the cafeteria. Do I think they were any safer? No, because there's no way to block access from either the cafeteria or the gym into my main hallways.
Thank you.
So
It's
I just
like,
wanted to hear.
it's like Dr. Reese said, it's two totally different
Mhm.
situations in a way,
building
because the
layout.
building layout is so different, yeah.
And going back to the fire department, how many fire departments are used?
We currently use right at 22% of our facilities are fire departments. We have 5 precincts of the 23.
I know that those gaps are so small,
Mhm.
but there is their fire department. It's not one of the different.
No, for parking, yeah.
Churches,
I don't know
it says 7.
What would we?
7. It's on this page of your handout.
He said he would wonder what would be
You've
the
got that-
difference between.
you've got the
OGAT
handout.
and fire
For fire departments, I mean, for
You
that.
know, just
Fire
the layout.
department's 5 rescue buildings.
So for next steps, Mr. Carter, if let's hypothetically say Westfield gets positive news from this local church, do we come back to you at your next board meeting in July and communicate that? Is that
Whenever it's outside of election periods, we do not have regular
Set.
meetings.
Okay,
Unless there is a need to call for a meeting and it be set up, and then, of course, we have to advertise it being so many days out for public
Yeah,
announcement.
we're pretty.
I was gonna say, y'all are the same.
So, we don't have anything scheduled July, August, until we get into September, whenever we get into early voting. Then, of course, that's gonna be, when we get into that, it's too late to do anything about what we're trying to do now. So,
you just want me to communicate with Michelle?
Yeah, I think communicate with staff. I think that would be fine because, we'd be the ones to take that next step. See what,
Soon as we have additional information at Westfield and or any other, places to explore at Mountain Park, I will communicate with you.
sounds good.
Just wait to hear back from the Board of Elections.
And Mr. Scott, we really liked the church. Not to say we don't like your school, but we enjoyed utilizing the church. It worked well for us, across the street from.
Right.
But their deacons took a vote, after.
And I asked again.
2020, you did ask them. They were pretty adamant in 2021 that don't approach us again. You have voted. We do not want to mix politics and religion by having it in our church, so we have to honor.
Sure.
But the convenient part about that is if someone did go to school, they can see across the road, oh, well, there's where voting's happening. So it was real good for us, but
it wasn't convenient, so.
yeah, it was. Anything else forward in this packet that you have questions or comments on before, we move on?
Please, Madam Director, I just, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Please understand, every member of this board and our department team shares the concerns that everyone's brought to us. We just ask you to keep in mind that, the challenges with all of our current voting precincts. Those 4 concerns apply in core the same way. We have the very same concerns with every voting precinct that currently exists within the county. And we, as a body, work very hard to make sure that we have the safest, most accessible precincts so that the citizenry in Surry County can feel good about going to cast their vote without any restrictions, no real major concerns. The concerns are real, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate that, and the board, I know you expressed them. But I just wanted to ask you to keep in mind, we have to go through that those 4 challenges and concerns are taken into account in every precinct, no matter if it's a school, if it's a church, if it's a fire department. Things could happen. Things could happen in any of those locations. And so we take them all seriously. We try to do everything we can to mitigate the risk, and certainly, as we've already shared, we're willing to provide additional resources from a security standpoint to try to make everybody feel better about it. So appreciate all the concerns expressed and appreciate the time that everybody's given.
Appreciate the information. Yeah, this handout is good information.
But we do thank you, and it's just, it's not, there's no win-win here. It's a tough one, because we do understand your concerns, and I do know when we went to Westfield, it's tough when the food service staff have to do bag lunches, and that means those children don't get to go out of that classroom for the day. So it's hard.
If I may ask a question, when do you normally set your new academic calendar?
December.
So it's already been set for next year.
Okay.
We were required to have it to the state DPI by a certain date.
Okay.
I think in March.
December, January, so we usually get it approved, so we start working on it in the fall.
Okay.
Can it be revised?
When is the
Can it be revised?
2025 calendar for elections published?
There-
That's set.
It's published usually we have it out by January for the election year, because see, in 2025, we're only even year elections in Surry County.
So there's a month off. You're coming out a month after they're making their calendar. Is that correct? So if they're doing it in December, you're doing it in
Yes.
January. that's where if we can find common ground on that, if you're gonna continue to do schools, your calendar is given to them so they can justify their calendar. That way is that there is a runoff, we know exactly when that runoff date is going to be. It's gonna be a May 14th. And then we can say we can never have May 14th be the same day as testing if there was a runoff because your calendar is set. Would is that runoff for predetermined in the future? So
It is,
predetermine that in
It's,
January.
it's a state law.
If the state, yeah,
Correct.
it's set.
So that, those dates are stone set.
yes.
So that stone setting date can be shared with school systems when they build their calendar, that they can never cross like we did this past spring. with
Your
runoff.
calendar may be a little more fluid.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I'm
with
certain
the
it
May
is.
14th date,
Right.
that is on there as a absolute cold date for us, but it's tentative because you don't know if you're gonna need it.
Correct. If school would build a calendar knowing that 14th would be a potential election day. They at least have that intention to
Just make it a teacher work day.
whatever, you know, that day is a potential that it could be a runoff. Whether it happens or not, at least you have the visibility of that.
And-
Mr. Johnson, it's a matter of knowing and not knowing. So, you know, if you know, then you can at least plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You can,
Before this year,
but that.
before this second primary, actually, the law stated it could be this date or this
They
date.
did.
So this is the first election that it was definitive that it's gonna be X amount of days after.
Sure.
So it can be more definitive going forward, because the law
Yeah.
did change in 2023.
And that's possible. That's a net positive.
Yes.
And in 2025,
We have to test 10 days from the last day of
Correct.
school.
So then it's nothing more than lined up.
Mhm.
The issue there too is that the legislature sometimes changes that, and that would be the problem in trying to set out ahead of time when that date's going to be.
Well, I'll give an example. Before 2020, our elections, our primary was in May. Our
Yes,
second primary
First
or
primary.
runoff would have been in July.
Yes.
So
We didn't have a problem then.
didn't have a problem.
Yeah, right.
But we don't know what legislature's gonna do.
I think
yeah, they've
another
changed it
reason-
several times.
Another reason we're here, we're talking about 2 schools out of 20. It's not 18 out of 20, it's 2 out of
Goodness, yeah.
20.
Right.
And so to change the whole calendar for the school system, not that these 2 schools aren't as important as any other schools, but that's why we thought it's best, let's try to work on individual solutions for Westfield and individual solutions for Mountain Park with you to try to, obviously make this the best for both of us.
Yes.
and in 2025, there's no elections.
Yeah.
2026 will be our next off year, non-presidential
Mhm.
election. Unless the legislature brings something other up for a statewide
Right.
vote or some
Like a bond referendum
Yeah.
or
a referendum.
well, photo ID,
And that's-
lots of things.
Or there's a lawsuit that throws a monkey wrench in the works, but you can't plan for those, so.
2 things I would like to say is for our second primary, I think we had 1.5% turnout. 1.5% turnout. And that's,
You can
second
get
primaries
this
are
page.
notorious for such as that.
Shows you this.
And another thing, I think we've said it back and forth, but both of us has to report to greater powers.
Yeah.
We have got to pay attention. We've got to go by the legislature, the state, and the federal government with our elections, and y'all have to report to the state. I don't know how much you have to do with the federal government, but
This is the book that we are bound by. Other than our Bible, this is our working Bible right here. All the election laws that we're required to follow. So.
Anything else? I know you all have a meeting.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank y'all for coming.
Ours is a working meeting of the board, and I don't think it will be that long. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
See you. Thank you. I'll talk to you. Appreciate your time.
Good to see you.
It's not just me, it's a few of us that are penalty. That's our politics, but.
No, thank y'all. I'm glad we only.
Guess we'll appreciate it. That's what. Okay. 4 years ago. No, sir.
I know.
Oh,
Oh,
unless,
no, unless,
Unless we take a vote and.
we will vote right now.
Yeah.
Stay.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
But just a minute, let's make sure that we're. No, it's
Oh, we are.
Are we open?
Yep.
You got- you're online. Thank you. You have a motion?
No.
Okay. We appreciate meeting with the school board and the principal and the interested parents that has a sincere desire to see some changes, and I think we feel it. It's going to be maybe a cooperative effort between maybe those citizens in the community that can reach to the deacons or the church officials and maybe help things move along. And, but it'll need to be a long term, I would hope, change. Because if we made a change, I'd hate to in a few years have to go back to the school and we're gonna have to come back to you. Right.
Yes.
Agreed. I mean, you know, if we lost Faith Baptist Church for some reason, Franklin's Elementary School, which used to be a precinct for Mount number 8, that would be the first alternative, I would think. Okay, next on our agenda is Powell Mountain Precinct update.
Well, we really don't have one, except that I did share with the board that the chief did receive our letter, and it seemed very positive. That he felt like they could accommodate the dates and what we need, but he would take it to his full board in June. So hopefully we will know something really, really soon there. It did sound encouraging, when he received our letter, so.
He personally was receptive.
He was, and he personally answered and said, I think it looks like we could accommodate and, but we will discuss it, so. And, also Jessica's nephew, who was a precinct official for us this time, he is assistant chief, I believe, so.
oh, good.
There.
That'll help.
Yes, so I think that, well, that's just another, another person to say, hey, I've even worked it, this is what we can expect, so that's good.
That sounds great.
So hopefully it's looking positive there.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Probably not sound like we did.
Oh, can I pass it back to Clark, or do we need to, he actually wasn't here though, so no, yes, we don't. You can vote, so yeah.
You missed a minute.
You didn't miss much.
Pilot Mountain Rescue sound very promising, and that will be a good, solid change. Easy for the people in that precinct.
And again,
Staff and Michelle, thank you all for helping make that happen, meeting with them, looking at the facility.
and I think that rescue squad, we discussed about the fire departments and the bays and the equipment. Where the room is in location to the bays. Opposite, so we should never have an issue there with their equipment and our equipment.
And they're coming and going.
Yes, and they're coming and going. I think that could be a good precinct for a long time if it works out.
Moving back to the school board, I'm sorry, but I appreciate all of the board. I mean, usually at this time, we don't have meetings per se, but this was an item, and I'm glad to see full board be here for the presentation, so that later that we can feel better with any deliberations to make a decision. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the staff. I wasn't able to text my thanks for all the information staff come up with, but I want to say it here. That sometimes I don't know what I'm doing to try to send one. I think you know that, but I want to thank y'all for what you did. That's a lot of work, and it was very
tremendous.
They did a fantastic job.
And you included,
And
so.
it made my vacation even nicer. That was so well.
That was
Knowing that you left it in
20.7 people.
capable hands, right?
What's that?
Knowing you left it in
Absolutely.
capable hands.
Absolutely. They're
Yeah.
fantastic.
Now moving back forward to other business. Is there any other business that you all would have, need to talk and discuss? Until we come back again, maybe in July or whatever. Oh, wow.
I do not have any.
How is the new email system working for everyone?
I like it. I mean, I just think it's consistent when you look across the state at some of the other boards of elections and it's nice not to mix business and
Yeah.
the public duty in the same emails. So that part's good for me anyway.
Yes. Great.
And I think boards of elections are gonna start getting emails directly. It looks like that's the new
It looks like.
avenue. I got another one who this weekend, an election integrity group who thought they had sent it to you all, but they had sent it to election director. But it was asking to consider your votes for the location for early voting and not have any early voting at a school site. So that didn't pertain to us, so I just didn't share it with you all. But again, I think board member emails is how these groups are gonna start more and more. That's what they're gonna do is contact you all directly. So even better reason to have a county
Yes.
email address.
It's safer and, then it doesn't mitigate or mix in with any of our personal emails. It's on our private account that shouldn't be accessible,
Right.
by any request.
I'm still getting one that's going to my personal, won't go, I don't know if it's.
For me,
No, it's from the.
We the People?
We the People, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, I get that on personal, but
Yeah, I didn't know if I was the only one. I know that.
no, I get it on my personal also, but now getting these ladies directly to
Yeah, to
to our county
individuals
email.
instead of the group.
So I think, when we're advertising our phone, it's our phone and the new text to the new email address,
on the
right?
website,
Is just your email.
not your
address.
phone.
Right.
No.
No problem, good.
I think the only way to stop that through would just be to block that.
Mhm.
Well, I don't mind getting, I mean, I'll read it and look at it, but, I just wish it'd go to my other one.
I understand.
Oh, to the.
It should start coming there.
okay. Any other business before we go into closed session?
Well, let me offer my apologies for my tardiness in the meeting today.
You're not gonna throw your wife under the bus for that, or anything?
She had some concern that I might do that, but no, she is in no way responsible for my tardiness.
Bless
It
her
is
heart.
it is of my own making.
Hey, Carolyn.
I would look for a motion to move to closed session. Closed session was being called for legal matter.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. closed session. We're back in open session. We had gone to closed session for discussion of legal matters pertaining to statewide complaints being filed, and we took no action. We had no motions, nothing passed. And this time it was for information only. Later it might come back up. So in open session now, ladies and gentlemen, is there any party shots for from our agenda today? Anything from the director? Anything from our attorney?
No.
Board members as a whole?
No, sir.
Thank you all for being here, and hopefully we'll be back soon and maybe meet back with our county Board of Education. I would look for a motion to close.
Make a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? If not,